All right, everyone. Today is looking at America and the idea of free enterprise. Now, just the disclaimer before we get started. Um, this is a simple and a simplistic view of kind of America and its relationship with free enterprise. There's a lot of nuances, a lot of caveats, a lot of kind of this is real world stuff that play into this. I'm not really going to be going into this today. Um, Mainly because if I did, we would be here forever, and I don't want to be here for 5 hours. Kind of just ranting. Don't want to do that. So, like with most things, we will touch on those caveats and nuances later as we talk about other things. Because, again, it's like with most things in the real world, things are more complicated than uh, kind of advertised. So just keep that in mind. So as far as kind of what uh, free enterprise, also known as capitalism, looks like, this is kind of this. It is where private citizens own and use the factors of production to make products and generate profits. Products can be bought and sold in free markets without government regulation or interference. That is kind of the textbooky definition. Now, within capitalism or free enterprise, there are five important characteristics that have to be had in order for it to work. One, economic freedom. Second, the idea of voluntary exchange. Third, private property rights. Four, profit motive. And five, competition. And we will pretty much spend the time going over these five things in more detail. So first, the idea of economic freedom. Uh, Pretty much the idea is you buy and sell the things you want. If there's something you want, you buy it. If there's something you want to sell, you sell it. Free, and this even applies to people that, like your job, because the idea is this: you have the freedom to choose your occupation. You have the freedom to choose your employer. You have the freedom to choose your job location. Um, if you find a better job, you move. Like for example, back when I was student teaching, I used to work at Kohl's, and quite frankly, the job sucked. I got yelled at all the time. The pay was terrible, and seriously, that was the only job where I ever got in trouble for fixing problems. I hated it. I found a better gig, so I went over to Barnes and Noble. I got paid more, got yelled at less, or not at all, and it was a better deal. I just walked into Kohl's, said I quit, started at Barnes and Noble the next day. But again, this is kind of that idea of economic freedom. It's more than just going to the store and saying I prefer an Xbox over yeah, I prefer an Xbox over PlayStation or PC Master Race. But it's more than that. It's also kind of what you do because this is an idea that I talked about before and I will talk about later. When you get a job, ultimately, what are you doing? You're selling yourself. You're selling your time. You're selling your skill. Selling your ability. You're selling your adaptability. So when you get a job, like me, I work for a certain school district. If I find a better job, find a better deal, find a better gig, ultimately what I'm saying is I'm no longer selling my stuff to this one district. I'm going to go to this other district and sell my stuff there. And that's kind of goes into the idea of voluntary exchange. Buyers and sellers freely and willingly exchange these sorts of transactions. Nobody is holding a gun to our head and saying, you must purchase this, you must purchase that, you must sell this, you must sell that. It's all voluntary. You must sell this product for $20. Anything else? Any rules or regulations that are slapped onto it by a third outside party, it's no longer voluntary. And then you have the idea of private property. This is important. People own and control their possessions as they wish. And this can range from your shoes you wear to your house. The idea that nobody can just come in and take it from you. They can't take your house. They can't take your land. They can't take your hoodie. They can't take your socks. They can't take your underwear. That is because of the idea of private property. Those are yours. Because, and here's something to really kind of put this within the proper historical context. The idea of private property is not as common as we would want to think. Because again, if you lived in ancient China, where everything was the property of the emperor, which meant your crappy hut that you shared with, 5 family members and a pig, that was the emperor's. That was theirs to do with as they saw fit. They were just letting you use it. If you lived in Dark Ages Europe, on the manor, you had the whole manorial system. You had the lord in the center who controlled the village, and everybody who lived on that village, well, the hut you lived in was the lord's. The fields you worked in was the lord's. Everything was the lord's. You were the lord's. So there was no idea of private property because, nothing was yours. And you have this idea of private property. What this does is this gives people incentive to work, to save, to invest. Your money is your money. You can do whatever you want to with it. You can blow it on video games, blow it on cheeseburgers, invest in a company, invest in your education, buy things with it. If you wanted to, you could take $20, buy $20 worth of M&Ms, wolf those down. You can do that. You could take that same $20, buy those same $20 worth of M&Ms, and then turn around and sell them and make a little profit. Come out with $25. Then what do you do with that? That's up to you. That's private property. And then your profit motive. People are free to risk any part of their wealth in a business venture. So again, you have those $25, you got your $20 back, $5 profit. What do you do with that profit? Do you reinvest those in buying more M&Ms? Buying $25 worth of M&Ms and then turning around and selling that. That's that business venture idea. On the flip side, if you're a worker, your profit is yours. That's your paycheck. As a worker, you decide whether it's worth it to work somewhere. Do you make enough money? Do you make enough benefits? Those are your profits. Again, I work in a school district. I don't work out of the goodness of my heart. I don't work pro bono, meaning free. I don't do that. I work for profit. I work for my paycheck. If the principal or the superintendent was to walk in and say, you know what, we're not going to pay you anymore. We're not going to provide those benefits. We are not going to compensate you for your time and effort in teaching a class. Okay, I leave. I go find something else because I don't work for free. So when you have a job, think about it that way. You're not being given a paycheck. You're working for a paycheck. If your paycheck ain't good enough, find somewhere where you can make more money. That's just how it goes. And the last bit of characteristics is the idea of competition. Sellers must struggle because they're competing with each other. When you buy something, in essence, what you are doing is you are voting with your money. If somebody rolls out with a better product, like for example, let's just go with the Xbox, PlayStation, Fanboy Wars. Xbox, PlayStation, they compete. They're going to try to get those exclusives that you can only play on their platform. They're going to try to push the hardware as much as they can. They're going to try to constantly be pushing the envelope in order to try to get more people to buy their stuff. That's that competition. It's that struggle between the sellers. The idea is sellers are going to spend their limited resources, their money, on a product. And this is that competition. Because, like right now, Xbox One kind of took it on the chin a little bit. PlayStation did a slightly better. Now, Xbox is getting ready to roll out with a lot of heavier things now. With the new Xbox, whatever they call it. So now, PlayStation has got a choice. Sony. They have a choice to make. Are they going to keep up or are they going to fall behind? That's that competition. Freedom to produce the products they think would be more profitable. To constantly push that innovation. And this benefits the consumers by pretty much assuring that unpopular products will not be produced. If something sucks, nobody's going to make it because nobody's going to buy it. Producers will always be working to bring newer, better, less expensive products to the market. And this is especially true when you have multiple competitors. You don't want one or two or three or four competitors. You want 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 competitors. You want so much competition that they're constantly fighting each other, trying to be the top dog. Now, what will happen will be some are going to fall away. Those that cannot keep up, they're going to die. They're going to be eaten by the other ones. But what you really want to have is and this is the beauty of free enterprise, when it is allowed to be a free enterprise. You can always have some upstart come out of nowhere and clean you out. Some company that just starts out of nowhere comes along and surprises everybody. Because what happens, and this is an idea we'll get to a little later, because when you have these companies eating each other, what happens is, okay, you end up with a gargantuan super company. Well, you're a gargantuan super company. You're big, you're fat, you're not able to really move. You cannot adapt to the changes. And then somebody small comes along and they're able to adapt. And they're able to take you out. So, with the benefits of free enterprise, how does a free market economy provide opportunity for individuals? Because this is key. Individual freedom is also your economic freedom. The freedom to change your job, to find a better deal, to go, if you say you live near a McDonald's and you're like, I don't like that McDonald's. I'd rather drive 5 more minutes and go to the other McDonald's because it's better. That's competition. Where you live, you're not assigned to a McDonald's. You're not assigned a Whataburger. You're not assigned a Taco Bell. You're not assigned a Walmart. You can choose which one to go to. And they can produce a variety of goods and a variety of services. And again, that's kind of the idea where somebody is going to want your money. They're going to want your money so they can pull a profit, so they can, maybe one day build that money house inside of their mansion. But they're not, free market capitalism. They can't walk up to you and say, give me your money. They whip out a gun and they shove it to your head. They're going to want to provide something that you are going to want. That you're going to, like that Fry meme, shut up and take my money. That's how capitalism works. They give that thing, they provide that product, they provide that service. And you're just like, I want it. Gimme. And then some other things is, and this is really what separates a market economy from a command economy, like the Soviet Union or North Korea or Venezuela. Market economies they adjust daily to the forces of change. Nothing is ever stagnant. That's just a truism in the economy. That's a truism in life. Nothing is ever the same. Things are always going to change. A CEO of a company or an entrepreneur that sees something, they can adapt, they can adjust faster than any government. So for example, there's this company called Microsoft. They're a huge company now, but Microsoft actually got its start not by making computers, like how a lot of people think, but they got their start by creating an interface. And because what happens is Microsoft Windows, the thing we use to interface with our computers, that was not originally it. Originally, when you jumped on a computer, it was a black screen and you had to type in a bunch of code in order for it to do anything. Well, what happened was Bill Gates and his friends, they got together and they figured out, well, let's come up with an interface for people to easily use their computers. And that was really where Microsoft Office came from, Microsoft Windows and all those other things. Because originally you had to use what was called DOS, DOS. And you can actually still bring this up on your computer if you just go to where it says the search bar and just type in MS-DOS, it'll pop up. And it'll just be a black screen with white letters, and you can just type in the code. And you can do that. You can just do that, and you can do everything on your computer with that you normally do without it. But it's not easy. It's not efficient. It's a waste of time. So they created this interface because they knew computers are going to be a big deal. What we need to do is figure out a way to make computers easy to use. And now Bill Gates makes so much money today, he would actually lose money if he was to walk down the street, drop a $100 bill, turn around and pick up that $100 bill. He would actually cost him money to do that because he has that much money, that much wealth. So kind of think about it this way. Consider the cell phone. You guys were not around or a lot of people were not around when the original cell phones came out. There were the giant brick-looking things in the one on the left. Then you have the one that I kind of really got started with, one that was actual phone. Now today you got your smartphones, which is for all intents and purposes, it's a computer with a phone app. That's really what it is. You can surf the internet. You can use it as a flashlight. You can do almost anything with it and make phone calls as well. I spend more time playing games on my phone and watching YouTube than actually using it as a phone. But again, that is because competition. People trying to push cell phones. What can we do to make our phones better? What can we do to have more customers? What can we do? What can we do? What can we do to make more money? So they start adding things and adding things and adding things and adding things. And that's really how free markets, capitalism, pushes innovation and invention and all those things. And from there, we have what's called the creation of wealth. Wealth is not the dollars that you have in your bank account. That's not wealth. Think of it as the potential of wealth. Wealth are things that are tangible, things that are scarce, things that are useful, things that could be transferred from one person to another. So yes, you can hold a dollar bill. Yes, they can be scarce. Yes, they can have utility. They can be useful. And yes, you can give $20 from one person to another. But, here's the caveat. Money in and of itself is useless. Money is only the potential to get the wealth. Because again, when you have that $20, can you use that $20 to make a phone call? Well, you could eat the $20, but Would you rather eat the $20 or spend it on a big meal? So that's why when economists talk about wealth, it's not necessarily the money, but it is all the stuff that is made. And nothing makes things like a free market capitalist system. Because then you can, literally flood everything. So kind of to wrap this up, this is how how economies work, but specifically how a free market capitalist system works. Now, again, like what I said at the beginning, there are caveats. There are things that need to be considered and stuff like that. Because, and this is kind of one of those things that, we'll kind of dispel, is when people, they look around and they say, well, capitalism, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. No, that's a talking point. That is not reality. Because, again, somebody who's poor today, who is in poverty today, have more than somebody who was in poverty 100 years ago. Poverty and poor are actually relative terms. And those are things that we'll actually get into a little bit later. Because again, it's not a simple cut and dry discussion. There's a lot of things that have to be considered. So again, those are things we'll dabble in a little later in the semester. But these are things to kind of think about and consider. And one person I really do suggest, if you've never heard of him, really start looking into him, a guy named Thomas Sowell. He talks a lot about those types of things. And I'll actually put a link to one of his videos in the description of this. But again, this is not necessarily meant to be the be all end all, but enough to give you something to think about. And begin to explore what free market capitalism is really all about. And that's about all. Peace out.